my name's Tony Sutherland. At this point in time, I'm an instrument builder, a luthier. I live in Lama, New Mexico, up about 8,200 feet. You're in my shop, hiking out of the mountains. I was skipping pretty much. I was really happy hiking off trail, and I found myself walking on this huge tree, and it had been wind snapped in the spring. It was laying on the ground, and I came to the edge of this tree and this thought was beautiful silky white wood, and I knew right then that's where I was going to start. And it had turned out to be an Engelmann spruce tree, and spruce is a wood that is extremely sought after, really nice spruce for tops, for instruments, for guitars and mandolins and other instruments. And so I did start there. I got my backpack, and I got my chainsaw and sledgehammers and wedges, and hiked up to this place at about 12,000 feet elevation, just below tree line, and harvested this tree. I bucked it up, 2-foot sections. I turned it up, and then I took wedges and sledgehammer and split billets from the center out, and then graded it by how it was split to see if it would split straight or if it had run out. And then I stacked this wood, and each billet was probably 40 pounds, so I was only able to haul down one with my other 40 pounds of equipment that first day. But over a period of 2 years, I hauled that out of the mountains, and that's where I began. It was with that wood that I began building instruments. And since then, my philosophy around building instruments is from the source, which is the wood, and it's really important to me to know where that wood has come from and how it's been treated. So what I'm going to do now is pull out one of the billets in the way that I would split them. Here we go. So as I was saying before, what I did was went up to the mountains and I bucked up 2 feet. There's a log sitting on the ground. I bucked up 2 feet sections until I came to the part of the wood. I got rid of the root base and the part of the wood that was becoming knotty from the branches. So I ended up with maybe 10 feet, maybe 5, 6, 12 feet, nice sections of wood. And then I would stand it up on end, and then I would take those and I would start my wedges with my sledgehammer and pound it in and see how it split. If you can see, this is an Engelmann billet, and as you can see, on this end is fairly flat, whereas this end is twisted and trued out. So what I would do is plane this end down as flat as I can, and then I would take my slices from here until it started twisting. Those would be what I would grade as a higher grade instrument quality wood. It gets to a certain point where this is unusable for instruments, and so it would be firewood at that point. When you do it by hand, it's going to run in its organic matter. It's going to run the way it grew. And also what I found with trees now, after harvesting a number of them, is the north-facing slope of a steep canyon is where the tree grows straight and strong and doesn't twist because it's growing for the light. So they grow really tall and quickly. Whereas you get a wider canyon or the south-facing where there's a lot of sun, then they tend to grow slower and twist more and have a wider grain. And you can also see in the grains of the grain of the wood, the seasons where they had a lot of moisture and not much, where it's really tight and where it's a little bit more open. And the tight grain wood is what we're after for instruments. The tighter the grain, the more resonance you can actually get out of the piece of wood, and you can use that in your application. So when I take the slices, and after I slice it, then I end up with thick slices, and I sand them down to a point where they acquire the tone I'm after. I leave it just a little bit thick when I'm closing in on the tone. And now I found that even when I split wood, I listen to it about how wood sounds. And there's so many different woods, and some of it has a really powerful resonance, and some of it's made just from my fireplace. So you're doing different things, and the way you can really, if you hold it about the third, you can tap on it, and through that tap you get a tap tone. And the thickness of the piece of wood resonates differently. As you get a little bit thinner, you'll get a little bit more bass, but if you get too thin, then it loses its structural integrity and its tone. And then I join them together for what would be a top, such as this, for a top, and then I thin it out by hand until I get the right sound that I'm after for the instrument application. In the past, as well as people now, when they kill an animal, they actually pray over the animal and thank you for its meat and thank you for giving its life. I find that I do that with trees. You know, for me, a tree is a living being who's been here far longer, hundreds and hundreds of years, far longer than any of us. It's seen so much, and it's given us so much, whether it be air, whether it be wood for our fires, whether it be shade, you know, wood for our homes. And then when the tree passes on, to actually honor that tree in this sense, in this way, where we can make music, and that tree lives on at that point. And that's, you know, that's really where I come from when I'm working with wood. I believe that's really important, and so that's where I arrive to the point where I'm building an instrument for somebody, and then that person becomes part of that whole energy of that tree, and it's that's feeding this person's creative abilities.